Hello, it is Thursday, June 16th, 2016 at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, and this is Marketing Live. I am your host, Amy Jorgensen, and on today's live broadcast, we're talking about HighEdWeb West. Marketing Live is part of a Higher Ed Live network, offering viewers direct access to the best and brightest minds in education. Live broadcasts allow viewers to share knowledge and participate in discussions around the most important issues in the industry. Today's live viewing experience is powered by Maestro, the premier marketing tech platform for broadcasters. All episodes of Marketing Live are free and accessible in the video archives at higheredlive.com and in podcast format on iTunes. Higher Ed Live is produced by M. Stoner, a marketing and communications firm that works with education institutions on branding, strategy, web design, and more. I'd like to welcome our guests for today. We have Justin Gatewood. How are you, Justin? Welcome.
Well,
we have
Amy,
Peter Mosinski. How are you, Peter?
I'm fantastic. Great to be here.
Great, and I think I pronounced that wrong. I'm sorry. It's Mosinskis, correct?
That's right.
Okay, sorry.
All good.
We would also like to welcome David May. Welcome, David.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And Dan Heller. Welcome, Dan.
Hi.
And we also have Christina Baptiste. Welcome, Christina.
Hi, everyone.
So if anyone does have any questions, please make sure to go onto Twitter using hashtag HigherEdLive, and I'll do my best to answer them as they come in. So for our first question, why did you guys decide on doing a HighEdWeb West?
all right, well, I can grab that just real quick. We had our first Western Regional was in 2013, and David May, who was the one we picked the name from the attendee group this year, he was also a presenter, was on our conference committee last time. He was also, and Chapman University was the host last time. That was the first time we had a regional, or really any HighEdWeb conference in the west of the U.S. And then the national conference was in Portland right around that same time. So trying to expand higher ed's reach into this area of the country and get more exposure for the organization, which just benefits everybody on the web out here as well.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. The very first in 2013 when we did it, we had such a great time at the national conference, and we felt like there wasn't enough HighEdWeb activity on the West Coast, so we wanted to do something out there too. And the CBU team did an amazing job this year, 2016. Making it, bringing it back.
Wonderful. So what are some of the challenges that you had while being on the West Coast? If there were any.
Maybe a lack of exposure. The folks in the Midwest and on the East Coast have seen HighEdWeb for a long time. It's been around at national conferences everywhere, regionals everywhere, and on the West, there's not as much visibility for the organization. So that was probably one of the challenges. Yeah, I don't know if Peter has any comments on that. He was part of our program committee and did an amazing job.
Well, that was one of the great things about the conference, I think, is these regional connections that we're able to create are so powerful because you're connecting with people that are basically in your, well, more or less in your backyard. We are more spread out, I think, on the West Coast and in general the western part of the U.S. There's not as high of a concentration of neighboring universities. So being able to connect with people that are close by is still really important, and it's an opportunity to start forging those relationships so you can keep in touch with people in the future.
Awesome. So how many people come to this conference? Or came to this conference?
We had 91 attendees this time, which was a good turnout. I think the attendee group was a little bit larger than that in 2013, but we had 91, which was still, I think, really good.
That's awesome, considering that this is, still kind of a pilot conference and trying to get things out there. That's really good. All right, so now here's the exciting stuff. What are your favorite components of the conference?
Well, I'd actually say that the size of the conference is one of my favorite components. And even though it's only the second time we've done it out here, and we've had approximately between 90 and 120, somewhere in there, just in these first couple of years that we've done it. There's in the Northeast, for example, HighEdWeb, I think they've also had about 100 and 125 So, and they're a much more established kind of regional version of the conference. So I think we're doing pretty good on the West, and I think the size is one of the really advantageous things. You get to meet a lot of the people. It's a really good size for workshopping and brainstorming. So you feel like there's a little bit, it's not as overwhelming. There's a much better kind of, I think, networking that can happen. I think that's one of the strengths, and I think the other thing that I love about HighEdWeb, both the national conference and the regional conferences, is that we go to these conferences for internet marketing, maybe outside of the education vertical, and I think they're really valuable as well. But it's nice to be able to talk with and problem solve with people who are going through the same thing that we are. There's a lot of things in the business sector, challenges that that we have that they maybe don't, and so it's nice to be able to brainstorm with people who are going through a lot of the same things and who are in a lot of the same situations.
Almost like a support group.
Yeah, actually, that's parts of it, kind of feel cathartic when you're talking about and commiserating, but then you problem solve and you come up with solutions together too. So that's nice, because so often we get stuck in our offices, and a lot of internet marketers in education have really small offices. So it's, I think, critical to go to events like this so that you can, meet with other people.
You're decentralized, I'm decentralized, no way!
As presenters, this is Dan from USC. Christina and I had never presented at a conference, so I think that this was a very good opportunity for us to be able to present. And as David was just saying, the fact that everybody works with similar resources and environments and constraints is great, because the conversations that we have together at work really apply to other people, and it makes for a great opportunity to get in there and start presenting your findings and your work.
Awesome.
I think we're so lucky to work with such a great group of very passionate web professionals that are so committed to their profession, and getting people together all in one place creates such an amazing energy around the issues that Daniel and David were mentioning. Just that opportunity to talk, to communicate, to give back, to share. And I guess what excites me the most is all of the people that have been involved in that kind of HighEdWeb or professional community around higher education or being a web professional. A lot of first-time attendees, first-time people had been involved in a higher ed web conference, and that's very exciting to bring people in and really help promote the idea that we are a community of professionals that are here to support one another, and that's something that's very unique to higher education.
Oh, you're exactly right. I mean, if you work at Walt Disney World, you can't exactly email Universal and say, hey, how are you guys doing things?
Exactly.
Well, Amy, since you mentioned it, speaking of Walt Disney, our keynote speaker is actually a professor at Cal Baptist. He wrote a book, and our conference budget allowed us to be able to give a copy of this to everybody that attended, and he was in attendance, and it's a best-selling book on Amazon. If you haven't, go look at thewisdomofwalt.com. One of the things that he said, just talking about building our community and building on the perspectives that we have as web professionals to further what it is that we're doing and to reach out and connect with each other. One of the comments he made was really a quote from Aristotle. It was something that I took away from it. He said, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. It's a quote from Aristotle. I was like, I hadn't heard that before. But I think we all are engaged in that process of being consistent and being curious about the creative side of the web, because everything we're doing, everything that Dan and Christina are doing, David and Peter and yourself and everyone else involved, every day we're trying to figure out a better way to do what we do. And going to a conference like this, you're in a session and you're seeing somebody present on the completion of a project that maybe you're getting ready to enter into. And so you're having that trepidation and concern about, okay, what am I going to do? What are the steps? Who am I going to coordinate to work with? And then you see like Dan and Christina talking about, here's how we did it all. Or you see somebody like Eric Turner from community college talking about their redesign process and the project path they went through. And or Ross and Ross French and Robert Bottomley from UCR, how they redesigned their newsroom. I mean, really cool stuff like that. You don't get access to those types of things, like you were saying. If you're at Walt Disney World and you call Universal, they're not going to share that with you. But in higher ed, it's a really big benefit that you don't have in other industries, I think.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because as collaborative it seems like higher education should be and needs to be and can be. One of the sessions that I really enjoyed was Logan Franken, who was talking about how slow the higher education community is to be open to open source and to kind of, we're willing to share ideas at conferences, like you said. We're not like Disney calling Universal, and we're not competitors in that way. We all see ourselves as people who are contributing to education overall and who are trying to make a difference in the world. But then when we talk about how we build our sites and how we actually complete our projects, we actually don't share that much, at least not as much as we could. Other parts of website construction, outside of education, do far more sharing and collaborating on projects and contributing to the open source community than universities really are allowed to. And a big part of that, at least as Logan identified, was the bureaucracy. And I think we can all sympathize with how much bureaucracy we feel like we have.
I see you laughing there, Mr. Gatewood.
It's just the nature of higher ed. The politics, the bureaucracy it's par for the course.
It's like working in government. All right, so Christina, what were your favorite parts? We still have you on mute.
I also agree about the size. That, I think, was a really great component of this conference. We got to talk to a lot of people. And Dan and I actually, so we're both from the University of California. We met other people at the University of California that we have never met before, some of whom we have worked with on different projects, but I've never seen face-to-face. And I think that a conference like this provides a great opportunity to meet people that we actually work with, but we don't get to see that often, and collaborate a little bit in person, which was, I thought, really a really nice component of the conference. I think the size is probably, it was one of my favorite components about it.
Isn't that weird when you meet someone in real life for the first time and you've been talking to them online or whatever? It's like, whoa! Yeah.
And the first presentation we went to was actually a presentation from someone at USC that I have never, some people I met at the conference that I've worked with or that I knew their names from, and I've never met, and I'm going to mispronounce his name, Jonte Delane, who did the social media presentation at 9:45. Never met him, didn't know him, but then I got to meet him at HighEdWeb West, so that was great.
Yeah, and that speaks to the caliber of the people that the organization brought together too. Jonte has, I think, 300,000 followers on Twitter, and he was doing one of the presentations in one of the sessions. Amazing session, and a lot of good schools represented there. 2 USC people here on the call and more USC people at the conference makes me think maybe when we're looking for a host, for next year's HighEdWeb, I mean, USC, you guys could.
Yes, we should look into that. That would be.
I like how you put that in there. That was stealthy. I mean, that was.
That was pretty quick. That was good. Did you get maybe David might have got paid for that? He might have a USC patch on the back of his shirt.
I know. Don't tell the Chapman folks. They'll think like, oh, you're not going to try to get it back at Chapman.
All right, great. So what were some of the things that you learned at the conference? We'll jump back into Christina because you were talking about your...
So first, I was going to say about the social, actually. So there were a couple of presentations about social, and the thing I learned, I guess, is that we're all a little bit in the dark about how to use and do and work with social media and what we can do with that, how that can help us in our work on the web. So that's actually, it's a little bit of a comfort to think that, everyone's kind of struggling with this. We all are trying to figure it out as we're going along. And learn some strategies that other people are using with social.
So how do we get out of that?
Well, it's the fact that it's constantly changing and that the way people are using it is also constantly changing. The thing that we do is just experiment. And I thought that there were some good lessons about just try something, get in there and try something new, see how it works, follow up with analytics and see if you can develop measurable things that you're seeing some kind of difference in whatever metrics you pick based on what you're doing socially. But there is no there's no this is what you do, and then you just stick with that and do it. So it's a very experimental place to be, and that's what I learned.
That makes sense, because what works at one university might not work at another.
Yep.
I think one of the great things about Christina and Dan's presentation is one of the ways that we approach social media can just sort of evolve as well. We're, at least a lot of us that were at the conference think of ourselves maybe as marketers, but really it's more, I think, fun and more rewarding to think of social media as a kind of a community empowerment tool. And the title, you know, We Love Our Haters, is fantastic because you think about it as an opportunity to engage with your community, to listen, to respond. We have a great opportunity in universities. The type of experience that we're, I hate even to use the word selling, but the type of experience that we're part of is one where people are on site for 4 years. They're in classes, they're learning, but they're doing all these other things as well, extracurricular activities, and engaging all parts of their maturing and their growth. Which is a lot different than if you're selling refrigerators or shoes or cars, you know. So we have really a better opportunity to think of marketing as experience, as we talk about user experience on the web all the time. But what if we talked more about experience, you know, I hate again to use the word consumer, but the student's experience, and listening to them and making sure that they have a positive interaction with our brand for the 4 years that they're here. And that's something the Internet Marketing Association, IMA, they do a conference called Impact. I think they're up to Impact 16. And that was something that the person at MGM was talking about. Their lead marketing person was saying they have a kind of a similar experience where they have people come, they register online for their hotel room, but then when they get here, they're evaluating their stay through the whole time, and they're putting a lot of their marketing and customer service is sort of merging, so it's all about that, you know, consumer's experience. And if we're talking in education as creating such a good experience over 4 years that we want them to be donors, for example, afterwards, or really engaged alumni, then I mean, We Love Our Haters is perfect. I mean, to be able to engage social media instead of from a marketing, you know, perspective where we think of lead generation or something like that, to think of it more as, you know, empowering the community to communicate with us so that we can improve as an institution.
That's awesome. Take away the Big Brother aspect.
Right.
Yeah, that's cool. So what did you learn, Mr. Healer?
Heller, hey. Yeah, I would just go back to the wisdom of Walt. We learned a lot of Walt's wisdom, and it also connects back to the point about experience. Getting to be on the lovely California Baptist University campus and getting to see all of these projects that people are doing really got us thinking about how to improve student experience, and our own project was about that too. But I think getting to connect to smaller colleges and universities is a really good part of these conferences, because as a larger university, sometimes no one takes full responsibility for some of these issues, which we're trying to do in our project, which is a student portal. But yeah, getting exposed to what other people are doing with that was really great, and just thinking about I believe what the keynote speaker is doing at California Baptist is he's kind of taking some of these Disney principles and applying it to higher education, of, like, you know, having a vision for you know, for happiness and for great student experience, and I think that's, you know, that's a role that doesn't really exist a lot of places, and is kind of inspirational to think about, like, what would that mean? What would you do if you really just took that as your number one goal, to make students happy?
I love that.
Just want to take a second real quick and just recognize Dan and Christina for, I mean, I think it's really impressive that you guys hadn't presented at a conference before. You come into a national exposed regional conference, and all of the attendees said, "Yep, those are the best ones here," and you clearly struck a chord with everybody present at the conference. And even if you go on our regional website, one of Peter's one of the folks that works with Peter at Cal State Channel Islands, Ryan Garcia, did some really artistic sketch notes on his tablet, and gave us the permission to share them. He did like a page and a half of sketch notes on your guys' presentation. So we'll be posting those on the regional site here in the next day or so. There's a few things ready if you want to go check them out. But getting back to what I said, just Dan and Christina, I mean, congrats on being selected.
Thanks so much.
Awesome. Did I get you? I think it's Peter, right?
Yeah. So, biggest takeaways when I go to any kind of conference have so much to do with getting a sense of where we are in our industry as professionals. What are the sort of major topics or issues that people are talking about? One of the things that there's really two main themes that came out from this conference. One was how much all of our colleagues are spending time thinking about analytics and data and return on investment, and I think I think this transformation and moving into that direction, looking at how web is providing and what we do as web professionals, as IT professionals, as marketing professionals, as social media professionals, how we're providing value to the university, our colleges and universities, how we're helping our organizations achieve our goals, and helping to show that and how we tell that story and demonstrate the value of what we do in terms of data, in terms of analytics, and the return on investment. What we're putting into it, what are we getting out of it from that work? And there's so many great conversations that happen. I mean, from the lunchtime table topics, I was sitting at a table that was discussing specifically analytics and search engine optimization. That was really fun. We had some great conversations about things like anomalies, analytics anomalies. When you find that you have, for example, a web page or a site that's really generating a tremendous amount of traffic, and you're smiling, you turn bright pink because you can't understand why this website is generating so much traffic, and now what do you do with this? What do you do with a virtual giant billboard that you have and a super highway that's been built that's going right past that billboard? Can you do something to leverage that? I think it's a great conversation to have. But I think that the topic around analytics and how we use data to make the case, that's sort of the second takeaway that I got from this conference, and seeing how many of the presentations incorporated those concepts, and thinking about what the role is, and the tie-in has been historically in our profession between IT roles and marketing roles, and how that in many cases is becoming even more blended, and perhaps how some of the IT roles and IT responsibilities that people have been slowly starting to move more into, I would say, what would be traditionally more marketing roles, and how people are actually making that transition in their positions. I think the discussions that I had one-on-one and from what I got from the presentations, that those were fabulous and really revealing about what's happening in terms of that moves in that direction.
That's awesome. So, and we have to go back to Justin here. Can you show your card again and explain your card and what that was all about?
First of all, I can take zero credit for the card. Peter was the one who wrote this up. He was actually writing this up the morning of the Friday, June 10th. And so what Peter had done is he went out and got some, during our pre-conference planning meetings, he had put together an idea to, let's get some stickers, put them on the lanyards, or give people the opportunity to kind of self-identify when they register. And pick a sticker, pick a color, pick a topic, and then that was then extended into not just having a sticker on your lanyard that basically quietly communicates to everyone else, this is the topic I'm interested in. But then at the lunchtime, Peter made some little folded in half cardstock table tents, so to speak, related to those topics he had put on the card. And to just try to create organic places for people to go sit and start having conversations. Or if you sit down at a table and didn't see the table tent, you're like, oh, okay, this is the Building a Great Team table. And then Brendan Sparks from San Jose State University was on our program committee. He was a huge part of the success of having everything just flow very, very smoothly. I want to give a shout out to, since you're giving me the time right now, actually I'm just kind of just taking it. Karen Fisher from UC San Diego, our marketing communications person. She actually had, if you didn't notice, she had a brace on her foot. She had broken her ankle. She was still there working hard, getting stuff done. And Waylon Baumgartner, the chair and host of our conference. I mean, everybody just really pitched in. We had 2 volunteers as well. Martin, who was Karen Fisher's, we'd say, other half, and then my wife Karen were both there, just kind of helping with stuff the day before, packing, the attendee swag bags, helping with the registration. We just had a really good group, and so Peter here with us made those topic things a reality, and this is a good thing.
Can I just tell you the other thing about those topic stickers? They made everyone look really cheerful because you put them on your name tag, so it looked like you had, oh, I'm smiling and I have little stars, I'm so happy. So it really made everyone look like you're just having a great time. That was really fun. That was a great idea.
I love it. It's like when you're a little kid and you get the stickers, you're like, I did a really good job. Like, I know this thing. You guys incorporated flair into a conference in such an effective way. I've never seen that before. That's so cool. So how do you feel that this conference is so different from other conferences you've been to that are on marketing or web or things like that? Let's jump into Justin.
Okay. I've been to, like, for example, it's been a long time ago, but I went to Novell's BrainShare back when Novell was a thing. And that conference was really more of an expo, sort of like Interop, or where you have a bunch of vendor booths, a lot of exhibit halls. You have a lot of sessions, but it felt less like a community and more like a big sales trade show that happened to have conversation topics happening in side rooms. At HighEdWeb, it seems like, to me, the conference is more about the interactions, like Peter was saying, like David was saying, and like Christina was saying, and Dan. It's more about the connections you make between the sessions. In the session, when you recognize a topic that's really hits a hot point for you that you're working on right now or getting ready to work on, and folks like Dan or Christina come, or David comes. He came with one of the students there at Chapman. They created a business about 360 VR video campus tours, which is amazing. They handed out these little VR viewers, and actually came home and tried it, and then my son was trying it, my nephew, and they were like, oh, this is so cool. They got this little cardboard viewer on their phone, and they're looking at these videos at chapman.edu/360. Cool stuff, and you start to see. Let me show you. Actually, that's right here. Give David and Show a little shout out here. Vigo, one of our sponsors. They brought these little cardboard viewers, and really fun stuff. I mean, stuff that you've heard about but you haven't tried it, and then you just grab something off the table and go home and try it. It's sort of like a lesson in experimentation, both from the conversations you have and making the connections with people who are doing the same work you're doing or something similar, to actually going home and having things that, like Peter was saying, real, true, legitimate takeaways. And right now I'm looking at possibly putting in an internal request to see if we can buy some 360 VR equipment to be involved with that and get some help from people. So it's kind of nice to, like Peter was saying before we started, you have that conference breath, you're still real excited, you're all hyped, and you're taking all these ideas back to your institution and excited about seeing where it leads. And then you have now a list of people or a group of people you connected with that you can reach out to and say, hey, what did you do with this or that?
I think along those, this is Dan from USC. Along those lines, I think relevance is one of the key factors of why HighEdWeb is different. And one thing that I saw that I hadn't seen before is lightning talks. So they had these 15-minute talks, which 15 minutes is really fast, but also that you always come back from this kind of a conference and have a bunch of ideas that you want to implement the next week, and having those little talks is great because you can't do everything, but that gives you lots of ideas that are kind of the right size for you to be able to take on, or at least talk to the person who you might work with or who might be able to make that happen at your school. And it also, I think, having that size, that scale of presentations makes it more accessible for more different types of speakers, and that's another really big difference of these, that you get to see more different speakers. We're not professional speech people. We're never probably going to go on the lecture circuit, and I think that's great because those are the type of people that you really want to hear from, who are doing the actual work and making a real difference, and in many cases stuff that can really inspire you to want to do the same things at your own place. Yeah.
Awesome. What about you, David?
Sorry, I had to find that mute button for a second. Yeah, I agree. I think it's just kind of in that Venn diagram of everything. It matches everything. You know, you go to these website construction or internet marketing type conferences that are not higher education specific, and you get a lot of good information, but it's a different perspective. Then you go to these education conferences, like the EDUCAUSE, for example, is huge, which is also a great conference, but sometimes feels like maybe it's more for the IT folks or more for, it's a bigger conference where you're getting a smaller piece of the pie. Whereas at HighEdWeb, it's a smaller conference, but 100% of the pie is for you, and it's tailored for you if you're in this, profession. So it's much more targeted.
Awesome.
Yeah, just that real quick, responding to David. University Business has a conference they put on, and that felt like it was more for administrators. So exactly.
Right.
Awesome. So Christina,
well, I was going to say, well, one thing, I may be getting a little bit of feedback. I don't know if everyone is that, or if that's just me, but I'm getting a little bit of feedback on this. I was going to say another thing that makes this different from conferences I've been to in the past. One of them is the length. Having it be a one-day conference rather than multi-day, I actually think is a really great thing. I have not been to the main HighEdWeb conference, but I've been to other conferences that are 2 and 3 days, and your attention span just drops on those, subsequent days. I think people have a lot less attention span for something, and so I think just a focused conference that is one day, doesn't take you away from your work for 3 days a week, is actually a really good benefit. I don't think you can sustain and take away enough out of 3 or 4 days the way you can out of one. So that's a difference that I think about this conference that I really appreciated.
That's awesome. And Peter?
I was just going to add to exactly what Christina was saying, this idea that we can have such a concentrated experience in a single day where you're getting so much one-on-one time with your colleagues and other professionals that have such a wide range of expertise. I really haven't been to any conferences that offer that same kind of personal connection and that kind of opportunity. There's very few that do that very well. The other plug I wanted to make is really the affordability. I forget what the cost of the conference was, about $100, wasn't it? I mean, where can you go to an all-day conference, spend time talking with experts in your field, have lunchtime conversation, and just have a great time and make connections for $100? It's unheard of, I think, in higher education and probably in the industry.
You can't even go to Disney World for $100 anymore. It's now $110 a person. So this is a better experience. You guys just had to have a flume ride and you're in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a really good social event the day before too. They had at the Mission Inn down there. I'm pulling up a few photos, taking a stroll down memory lane. That was my train ticket because I took the train from Orange. But beautiful location and a wonderful tour and good food afterwards. And so yeah, for $100, it's a steal for sure.
Awesome. So can you guys tell me a little bit about your Best of award and how it originated and all that kind of good stuff?
Christina, do you want to go or should I?
Sure. Well, actually, I think. Oh, whoa! What just happened? How did I get that? Yeah, actually, this was your idea to present at this conference on this Best of on what we were doing with the portal. So you had the idea to say let's do something at HighEdWeb West about the work we were doing on the portal, and there were the two components, and we thought about how can we incorporate the feedback from what we're getting and do that in a good presentation. And we just thought it would be a good way to show people what we were doing in a targeted way. So that's where it came from. And then we just did a bunch of kind of compiled our research together to organize it and share what we were thinking about. Do you have any questions about why we thought it would be a good idea? Everyone has a portal, or a lot of people have a portal. A lot of people struggle with probably the same things that we were struggling with in terms of the age of portals and how to keep them up to date and how to keep them relevant for students with the ever increasing expectation level that students have for how things should act on the web. Yeah, I think that's why we thought it would be a good and relevant topic.
That's awesome. So do you guys have your award around you or near you right now?
Well, Christina had to take off.
Okay, right?
Yeah, Christina had to run before the awarding of this, but I brought it, so I will wave it here. So this is the best of award. Hopefully everyone can see it. It's a mouse ears. I can put it on for the remainder of the conversation.
Yes, please.
I had to learn how to wear this effectively because it likes to slide backward and become invisible. But yeah, and I'll just add. Anything that I say with the mouse ears on seems really profound and important. But I'm a designer. Christina is an information architect, content strategy, and really great at research. And part of why I thought this was a good thing to present was because by working with her and learning from the tools and the strategies that she uses, I feel like I was getting a better connection with the people who used the work that I was doing than I had before. And portals are interesting because, as Christina said, a lot of people have them, and a lot of them have aged, and now what people are expecting, to go back to the experience idea, more and more of your education life is online, whereas when a lot of these portals were made, maybe a portal was just to sort of like a bridge to get from one site to another, or it was doing a smaller role. So we by doing this research and getting to talk to users, I feel like designers often, we really care about people but aren't always great at actually dealing with people. Like, we care about accessibility and usability, experience and ease, but then you make us talk to a person and we get kind of like kind of nervous. So by doing this and getting our research in a variety of forms, we got anonymous feedback, which gives people all the ability that they have to be as rude and as terse and as sort of to the point as they want to be, and not polite, which is important, as well as getting in front of people. And in doing that, you get people to be really constructive, and you get people to to give you the fuller version of what that other person might have said in three scalding words, and so combining that all together and putting it into charts not only helped me as the person working with that research to design, but also really helped us to present that to the leadership and make the case for the things that we thought were really important.
I feel like when you say with the mouse ears on, like, not all of us like talking to people, whatever you would say in the mouse ears, I'm sure people are like, sure, yeah, okay, we'll work with you, whatever you need.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, now Christina needs one of these, so hopefully.
Good strategy. For the next time, we will definitely make sure to have costumes when we do the in-person interviews.
Well, I have a question related to what you are all building, and Does everybody on the call have this kind of same experience where you'll get feedback from whether it's the community or senior administration or whoever it is that says, oh really, I just want this thing that's on Amazon.com. I just want this little thing that does this. And I think part of the challenge that we have in our industry is that people use their phones and people use websites every day, so it builds these expectations for what types of features and what kind of performance that you have. But the issue is that the person making that comment or that request may forget that Amazon.com has a staff of, I don't know, 500 designers and developers, and we have like, what, 3 or 4 people? And so people will see something on a huge, major website and say, well, what's the problem? Just do this. You know what I mean? And there's not always this connection on the resources side to what's possible.
I think it goes 2 ways. In one side, yes, absolutely. People see, if they've seen it anywhere, they feel like, well, somebody's already figured it out. Why can't we just copy what they do? And so there is definitely that. The other side of that, though, is that you get ideas, I think, that you would not necessarily think of.
True.
Students see something, and they've seen something somewhere else that is in some way relevant, and so even if you can't do it immediately, I think that having some of that, I've seen this somewhere else, I think this would be great. It's something to put on a list and think about how to accomplish it. And if you've got a really creative and clever and really good developer, the way Dan can really think about these things outside of the box, he can figure out ways to do a lot of what people say. So they will say, oh, I want something like this, or I want to try something like this, and he will be able to figure out how to do it. So there's 2 sides to that. One is, no, you're thinking about Amazon, who employs 600,000 people to work on their website day and night, and we've got one person who this is a portion of his job that he's trying to do. But it does open up possibilities that we probably wouldn't have considered without hearing about them. Or it just wouldn't occur to us.
Great point. Great point. And actually, it kind of reminds me, as you're talking, I started thinking more about Logan's presentation again, and about kind of bringing open source to the university culture and to the education. Because what happens is, we each individually maybe have 1 or 2 or 3 or however many people to work on these things. But if we could kind of unify, higher education, then we would have a staff. I mean, I know it's not the same thing, but we'd have a much bigger group of people that would be able to contribute and create these Amazon.com style, whatever it is that they want, navigation structures or search components or email opt-out, type of filters, all those different types of things.
Well, that's a really good point. And one of the challenges with this project, I think, for us was because it's a portal, and we can't do one of the best tools for research is doing a peer review, looking at what other people are doing and trying to figure that out. Because portals by nature, you have to log into them. You have to have university credentials to log in and see what other people are doing. There's not a lot of sharing going on. There's not a lot of, hey, over here, this is what we're doing with our portal. Take a look and see. You might want to do this too. So I think that's really an interesting thing. It's a lot easier for me to do a peer review with a public website than it is with something like a portal.
I've seen a lot of Facebook groups that are for different folks, like, here's folks in student affairs, here's folks over here. Why don't we have one for folks in tech and say, here's some cool stuff that we did, what do y'all think? Or here's a problem I'm having, and just kind of crowdsource it. Would Facebook be the appropriate spot for that? Well, I'm just thinking a lot of people are on there.
Yeah, that's probably. I made one for Google Plus when it first came out, and we got pretty good membership. But then, it was on Google Plus, so that was what was the point of that. So that's a good idea to me.
I like that because we're on Google Plus right now.
I know.
We're on Google Hangouts as we're.
Yeah, it's rebranded.
Hangouts is awesome. All right, awesome. So tying everything all together, what are the future plans for HighEdWeb West?
Well, we talked about USC already as peer pressure to maybe take on. I don't know. I mean, CBU did a great job. I don't know if CBU would want to do it again. I remember, one of the reasons that there was a little break in between is I was fully open and willing to have it at Chapman again, but there was a lot of interest in doing it at a different location, and so, it might be too soon at Chapman or at CBU to do it again. I'm not sure. But the other thing that we should think about is, since HighEdWeb is such an East Coast thing, we think of West and we think of California, and it's been in California both times. But maybe it's time to go to Las Vegas or Utah or Denver. I know Denver, University of Denver was on the list of people that we were going to be reaching out to, or did reach out to a couple of years ago, to see if that was a possibility. But I don't know. We'll have to see what location makes sense for next year, or if we take a year off again and do it the year after that. I don't know.
Awesome.
What do you think, Justin?
Well, I felt definitely. I mean, California, we're the largest state in the country. We have, we're the seventh largest economy in the world compared to countries. Certainly a good place to have it. But I remember talking about University of Denver. I know the national conference was at University of it was up in Portland, Oregon, and so there's a lot of opportunities and places we could go anywhere in the West. Maybe have it in the middle of Wyoming somewhere, just to be interesting. Let's make it as difficult as possible to get there. And if you get there, and attendance is free. Win a prize or something.
Or in the tundra. Bring your camping gear. And bear spray or something. I don't know if they have bear spray. I'm thinking it's a thing. Mouse spray, right? Dan?
Sounds like things Batman would have on the belt.
Yeah. Awesome. Well,
like
I'd like to thank you all for joining us. I think I've gotten some really cool ideas from you, and I'm on the East Coast, but I kind of want to go to HighEdWeb West next year. So let me know. Don't make it too hard to get to. I don't have any bear spray, and I don't know where you can buy that. So thank you all for joining us. This was great, and Dan with your ears is awesome. I hope that you all wear them the entire time next time. I think that would be awesome.
One of the main things I want to leave with the viewers of this, both live now and as well as when they watch it on demand later, is be on the lookout for an announcement from HighEdWeb West. Either if you get it directly via email because you've attended before, or from HighEdWeb National. They'll send out emails on behalf of the regionals periodically when we're planning them. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. And if you're on the East Coast and you want to attend our West Conference, you're absolutely welcome to come and even put in a presentation proposal. We'd be glad to have you.
Wonderful. And as we're tying up, I do want to give a shout out to Mallory Wood, who's following us online. Thank you, Mallory. She's from our producers and our sponsors, mStoner. And she mentioned that Slack is a great tool for collaborating in the industry and that a lot of groups already exist. So we'll definitely have to dive into that more and check that out. So again, thank you always to our program sponsor, mStoner, and we will see you all next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.